thing is real tiny. I might just have to. Guys, welcome back to part 2 of this OA3 swap 944. So I guess we'll be left off as we made this thing a transaxle, because before it was a transmission. Now it's a complete transaxle with a nice welded cap and completely sealed off. So this honestly should work now. Since today is a nice 60-degree day, very random for New York. It's still February, but we're gonna try and see how far we get today. So when I left off, basically it's about 3 things that needs to be done. We need to make an adapter for the axles, an adapter for the center spline, basically to connect the transmission to the torque tube, and I guess mounts to the transmission. So Al, you guys remember Al? Thankfully he sped up the process for us and gave us one of his axles, so now we can just take the measurements off of this and make an adapter plate easy. So that's gonna be done on a colder day. Obviously today is a super nice day. We definitely have to go outside and just get as much wrenching as we can done in this 944. So we have a diagram that one of my subscribers sent to us, like probably like last year or so, when I first started thinking about doing this project. But sadly, none of the measurements line up. He has nice pictures and whatnot and how this is supposed to go, but it doesn't really match up. I guess it's because this is for a 01E, so I guess the axle dimensions are different. But yeah, we're gonna try and see what we can make sense of. Also, he does the OEM shifter, I guess, fork location and whatnot. We're going to adapt this to shifter cables. So I'm just gonna, I guess, take a couple notes from this and try and see what I can do with this. But yeah, it's very nice. Let's grab the jack and get into the Porsche and get stuff done. All right, let's go ahead and get down here now. Sheesh, we got like a whole graveyard of parts back here. It's like nobody ever comes back here. These are also little control arms that Al gave us. Don't know when I'll put those to use, but one day, definitely. So here we are. I don't even know what the engine transmission code for this thing is, but this is the 1984 NA transmission. I gotta release the e-brake so I can spin this. NA transmission probably only holds about 300 foot-pounds of torque. That's what everybody's saying. The turbo transmissions are definitely stronger, but not stronger than an OA3. So you can see just by the size of this transmission, I'm actually gonna have to measure this. This actually looks pretty crazy, but it doesn't look too hard. So you can see we have bolts on the axles. Hopefully, yeah, okay, okay. All right, so the axles for the automatic is definitely different than the manual, because these axles look a lot smaller. So this, I'm gonna have to definitely measure the distance, but this thing is real tiny. Like, I might just have to remove my rear, oh damn, chop out this spare tire well and just, wow. Let's get, I'm gonna have to measure this. Sheesh. All right, so from top to bottom we have about 33 inches, 30, yeah, let's just call it 33 and a half, 34. All right, this thing is just amazing. So I have it hooked on to about the face there if it keeps falling off, but look at where it comes out to. 34 inches. That's like the entire spare chassis well. This is gonna be nice. I'm actually very, very happy about this, because now I can get the whole like exposed differential when you look from the back look. And yeah, honestly, this is not too bad as you guys might think. You guys are probably watching this and thinking like, damn, it's a lot of work, but you know what, completely worth it. All right, so sadly, upon further investigation, these are triple squares, and I don't have my triple square kit at the moment, so just gonna have to wait for that kit to come back in, and then we can start by pulling these axles off. But let's see what else. Maybe I could have dropped a whole tranny, but let's just go ahead and try and see if we can disable this little I guess I forget what this piece is called, but it's like a connector that connects the transmission to the torque tube, so that at least we can know we can get done today. All right, so to remove the torque tube from the transmission, we need to loosen up this little, it's like a connector kind of piece. You guys can see that. This thing's like cool. Yeah, so basically there's an Allen bolt right up there, and we have to put the car in neutral, which it should be neutral right now. Should be able to turn it so it's facing us, and then loosen up that nut. That will basically release the coupler from, you know, both sides, and should allow us to pull the transmission back. All right, so since I can't get that thing to move, gotta be able to, I guess, put in first gear and then crank the starter a little bit. Should get it to move, I guess. Hopefully that should be enough. And boom, just like that, we turned it over. So yeah, I guess the alternative, I don't know, it's in neutral, but it's just super hard to turn. So from this should give us a good enough angle to get the Allen head in here and to loosen up this coupler. I'm just gonna take the bolt out just because purposes, because pretty sure that thing is seized on there. Probably have to get a flat head and like widen out the splines just so we can pull it off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this bolt in a safe spot. It's a good thing this transmission's coming out. This thing just looks filthy. It's completely caked up with dirt and looks like it was leaking at some point. Also taking a look at the axle bolts, and they're all, I don't know if this is how it's supposed to be, but looking like they're missing the little, you know, the little like zip tie or whatever clamp to keep it in. Look like I'm just losing a bunch of fluid. Doesn't even look like there's any much axle grease in here. Take a look at this side. It doesn't look too bad either. Oh look, somebody was in here. That's a zip tie. Look at this thing. That's a zip tie. Let's see if we can turn this wheel. Yep, somebody was in here already. So I don't know if these axles would be too good to me, but I guess it'll be fun to watch them break, I guess, right? So while we're talking about the axles, let's just go get started in making our adapter plate. Right, so to get started on this transaxle adapter axle hub thing, we're going to have to take measurements from the axle. Here we have this here, right here, and then take measurements off the hub. I guess it's called a hub. So off rip, you can see that these bolt holes would not match up with this. It's like not the right size at all. Actually, if I hold it right directly in the center, you can see that those bolts are like just completely outside the zone, or the outer zone. So that's not too bad. That's actually pretty good for when we have to make an adapter. All we have to do is just put these bolt holes in the middle, like around here, and that way we shouldn't have a problem. We also have to make sure this thing is like completely centered, which is pretty easy if we're doing like CAD work and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure from endpoint to endpoint on here, write that down, and then same thing from here to there. All right, so let's get started on making this adapter. There's a couple things you got to keep in mind. Make sure you have a nice, trusty caliper. This actually makes your job, makes your life a lot easier. This caliper I actually built the bell housing, so it's pretty up there in terms of quality. So let's go ahead and measure it from center line to center line. And we have about 86 even. Look at that, 86 even. So that's not too bad. And just to double check on the diagram here, the 944's PCD is definitely 8.6. So now this is the bolt that goes directly in here. Have to find out the thread pitch on this, but the diameter of the bolt is a, go ahead and round it up to like 6mm bolt. Actually, it might be fractional. Might be a fractional bolt. So let's go ahead. If we can't get the right reading, make sure you guys always have something like this. This is amazing. Pretty sure it's fractional, so this 5/16 actually fits very nicely. M7 doesn't work. M8, M8, no, it's too wobbly for M8. So 5/16, more tighter hole. Okay, so you can also look this up, figure out what size bolts Porsche uses, but if you don't have information next to you, you can just use these. So 5/16 bolt, I'll figure out the thread pitch later. That one takes a little bit extra work. So we have 86mm on this hub. Let's go ahead and measure it on the 083. Alright, so on this 083 here, we have about 104.5. So let's just round it up to 105. Pretty sure that's what it would be. This is not too bad. So 104. And then luckily we have this bolt. I actually just found this bolt in my drawer. It's a 3/8 bolt. That's what made me think that they use actual fractional bolts. So this bolt is a 3/8 16th thread. So gonna have to get a bolt that's like super tiny, honestly, and one, I guess maybe Allen's with that countersunk head. So maybe we'll use like a 3/8 piece of steel. That way we can get enough, I guess, thickness of steel to countersink the 3/8 bolt. So those are the two measurements. Now let's get to making the plate. All right, guys, literally 1 week later. It was Wednesday, now it's Wednesday again. So we have a nice day. Already got the car jacked up. Let's get these axles popped out.
Perfect, 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 perfect.
Alright guys, drop both axles. Extremely messy process. Also found a couple tricks, let's say, because this is a M8 triple square. If the inside of the bolt looks dirty like this, just take a little hammer and tap the triple square inside, just so you don't manage to strip anything. That helped. And loosen up both sides before you actually decide to pop one off. So I had to learn that side the hard way, but this side came off super easy. Alright, so let's go ahead and clean up the hardware, both axles, and then continue to drop the transmission. Alright guys, next thing to do now is to release the torque tube from the transmission. So we have a 17 and then 3 other 19s. So I don't know if that's how it is normally, but that's just how it is on mine. So let's get to removing them. Alright guys, remove all 4 bolts and even disconnected the little shifter shaft thing here. So I think that's about that. I think we just have to release the mounts and this thing should technically drop. So I'm going to release it from these 2 bolts on each side just so we can leave their mount in the original spot. So when I'm marking stuff up, it'll be super easy. I can even see if I need to make new ones. I know where the bolt hole is exactly at. So it's basically uniform on both sides. So you can see, just gotta remove these 2 bolts now on each side and it should drop. Alright guys, excuse the background music. The neighbors are having a party over there. So, this didn't come out as easy as I thought it would, because even after releasing this bolt, it still didn't want to release off the shaft. So I just backed the whole thing out and went savage mode, all because this thing didn't want to release. So no biggie, I was going to remove this entire thing anyway. Just happened to come out perfectly now. So this is what it looks like. So this is it, the NA Porsche transmission, 944 transmission. I think it's in gear right now. So this might be the easiest transmission swap ever, simply because this is 23 by 1, and I think the transmission, the 083, is also a 23 by 1. Let's go ahead and check that out. Theo, how does oil change doing, man?
Dirty.
All right, moment of truth here. Let's drop this thing real quick. Not literally. Let's see if this thing fits. Yep, this thing fits. Look at that. This thing fits. This will be the easiest tranny swap ever. Look at that. This side's more tighter than the other side, but look at that. It fits. Amazing. Alright, so that's one thing left to, well, that's one thing that we don't have to make. So now let's go ahead and get these things made. That's only about it, just custom mounting and the axle adapter. So that's not even bad. That is not even bad. Super hype. But as for this transmission, you're just gonna see it stay in the background. Honestly, I might use it probably on like a lighter power project one of these days, because this is a good transmission. Have all the shifter mechanisms, everything, so it shouldn't be, you know, too hard to throw it into anything. This thing is like super compact size compared to the 083. Nice. Yeah, don't do what I did, but nice. All right, so So upon further investigation, I removed all this foam in here. I think the final piece of the puzzle is to remove these two bolts. And I think it'll just free up this entire thing here. Hopefully there's no hole inside the torque tube, but I doubt it. So let's get this removed. I know you guys are probably wondering, why am I removing the entire shifter assembly and everything? Well, we're going to convert this car to shifter cables. Instead of using, I don't know what they call this shifter, but something like some kind of hardcore shifter like this. And I know shifter cables, yeah, I know. I'm gonna leave this entire area open. Well, I have an idea for that too. It sucks when you do things twice. I remember, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago when I was doing this entire interior, and this thing had like the most, I guess, non-universal like shift boot. It was, if you guys own a 944, you guys know it's like some kind of straight kind of thing, and then you go in to use your 944 shifter unless you get an adapter. But I got crafty and I welded on I think it was a thread pattern that matches an Evo. Basically it was like a whole nut, and I just sliced it in half and welded it. I think it was one of my first ever weld jobs, and this thing is solid. This thing has not broken over the years. So sucks to see this thing go, but moving on to bigger and better things, so not too bad. All right, nice and taken care of. Now this thing is fully empty, and you guys will see what I figure out to do with in this area. It's actually bigger than I thought, so this is actually going to be very good. I'm pretty hyped about this spot. All right, so since we're gonna go shifter cables, let's show you guys the shifter that we're going to use. Since it's the end of the video, I'll give you guys a little surprise. All right, here we are. This is a billet shifter. If I can get it out of the plastic. Look at this thing. This thing is freaking huge. Holy shoot. Yeah, it's gonna need a lot of modifications to get this work. Yeah, we're gonna need a lot of modifications to get this to work. But just look at this thing. Just, you guys hear that? It sounds like such nice quality. The Chinese are amazing. They're just amazing people, aren't they? I don't know how you can make such a thing and get it for so cheap. This thing is just amazing. So yeah, this is the whole goal of this thing now. You can see the shifter cables will go here, and one here is another adapter piece. Yeah, so we're gonna run our shifter cables. They're gonna be exposed because race car, why not? And they're gonna run back and eventually get back down and around the OA3 back there. So I don't think we're gonna use this base plate, but we're definitely gonna have to cut out all of this. The goal is to have this shifter, you can see like it has like kind of like a cantilever kind of shape. I'm gonna have it to cantilever over this hole, and then in this hole we're going to make like just like a nice little pocket of some sort. Oh wow, I can feel the draft in here. But this, I think this plan will be really cool. That way I lose storage space, but I gain it back at the same time. So that's about it for this video, guys. The next video we shall work on more on this, work on more on the OA3. I honestly don't know what's next, but we're moving forward on this project. So that's about it for this video, guys. Don't forget to head on over to unsystematic.co, get all your systematic needs situated, and help fund this wonderful 4063 944 Evo Porsche project. So remember to comment, rate, and subscribe. Don't forget, never stop modifying.